Okay, welcome to this meeting of the decision session for the Executive Member for Finance and Performance, Monday the 14th of November. And for the first substantive item on the agenda, I'm joined by the Executive Member for Housing and Safer Neighbourhoods. Item 1 on the agenda is declarations of interest. I have no interest to declare, Councillor Crackle. Item 2 is to approve and sign the minutes of the decision session held on the 17th of October. I'm happy to sign those as a correct record. Item 3 is public participation. I don't believe we have any members of the public registered to speak, so I will go straight to item 4, which is the Household Support Fund, and I'll hand over to David Walker.
Sure. Okay, so this paper presents the Household Support Fund scheme for October 2022 to March 2023. The Chancellor announced on the 26th of May this year that the HS Household Support Fund would be extended from the 1st of October to the 31st of March. On the 26th of August this year, that was confirmed by the DWP. The funding for the third Household Support Fund scheme is £1,037,000, which is exactly the same as we got for Household Support Fund 2. In terms of variation on this scheme, the government's given us broader guidelines around no specified groups, unlike the first Household Support Fund and the second Household Support Fund. However, there are some areas that they want to see support targeted. That's normally around vulnerable households who have been ineligible for other support, families with children of all ages, unpaid carers, care leavers, and families with disabled children. This is the 5th consecutive scheme that we've had since the Winter Support Grant, which was in the COVID period. And the scheme, as I say, operates from the 1st of October to 31st of March. The scheme, in terms of the support provided, is set out at Table A. So we're looking at making direct payments to families with children who are eligible for free school meals, to working age housing benefit and council tax support customers not in receipt of income support or universal credit, so have not previously received any support at all, and foster carers. In terms of applications, the application scheme is open for anybody to make an application to. Each claim will be judged on its own merits. However, the slight anomaly this time round is that we will have auto qualification for families with children who have DLA. The only reason we're having to do that through application is that we just cannot identify them, therefore they need to come forward, but we will put out proper communication to try and engage with them through our partners and through our own communications so that they will make claims. The other changes is that we've got an amount set aside for student referrals through the education establishments, because clearly students are now starting to struggle based on some of the cost of living pressures, especially those living outside of the universities. The other initiatives are to provide a small amount of money, £5,000 to the York Energy Action for help with energy efficiency. A element of £10,000 into housing, into discretionary housing payments. Primarily the discretionary housing payments this year is reaching full spend because of demand, because of pressures in the housing sector. So putting a little bit of money in there to try and help that. Putting some more money into the food and fuel vouchers to help with support across the winter and into the spring, and administrative costs. In terms of direct payments, we will be writing in the coming days to all those families who should qualify, and the Table B sets out the amount of the awards. So for families with children, for one child it's £225, up to families with more than 4 children it'd be £300. And then again we set out the working age support for people not in receipt of income support with £200, £250 for foster carers. Households with children receiving DLA £250, and student referrals £200. As I said, the scheme's just slightly different in that it removes the restrictions. So the previous scheme set a percentage that had to be spent on each scheme element of the scheme, which was pensioners and families with children. This scheme doesn't, which just gives us a little bit more latitude. In terms of the direct payments, we've got a 6-week window for them to make an application. We need to write to them, they need to find their bank details, and we need to do the normal fraud and checks to ensure that we're paying the right people. What that means is that any payments won't go out until January. However, the YFAS fund is there in case of urgency, and of course the DWP support is going out over the next few weeks for those people in receipt of universal credit. So finally, the report in terms of the recommendations is that the council approve the household support fund scheme October to March 23, that any changes to the scheme that do not fundamentally alter the purposes delegated to section 151 officer in consultation with the executive member for finance and performance, and that the delegation of discretion to pay claims made within the broad scope of the scheme guidance as set out at Annex B is delegated to the head of customer and exchequer services. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I'll hand over to Councillor Crackhill first.
Thank you. Just a few comments. I think in a way we've already covered quite a lot of the relevant comments in previous sessions, but there's certainly no doubt that about the need for this funding, and in the current circumstances that need unfortunately is growing, and it's set to continue growing for some time. In that context, I suppose it's notable, as you said, David, that the support offered by the government is the same level as the previous 2 schemes. And we know that although that's going to be helpful and very welcome, it isn't going to be enough to help all the households that will be struggling this winter. I think the increased flexibility in the scheme that you mentioned is helpful to ensure we can meet needs as much as possible without excluding any particular groups. I do think it's worth emphasising that under the discretionary part of the scheme, residents don't have to be in receipt of DWP benefits. People sometimes don't realise that they can apply, and also emphasising that families receiving disabled living allowance do need to make a claim to the council, because you said they don't have their details, so we really need to get that message out to people. I welcome the additional amounts we've been able to allocate to York Energy Advice for food and fuel vouchers, the student hardship fund, because there will be students in hardship, and that's by referral, I know, and the discretionary housing payments. And I suppose just finally, just to say again, these one-off payments are going to be really helpful to families, but I think it really came up at the cost of living conference we had recently that, you know, if we can help people to draw down more benefits that they're not drawing down, or to reduce their costs in a way that's properly manageable, say by improving energy efficiency, that's going to bring them even more benefits. So we're going to do everything we can, aren't we, to incorporate that advice when you know, with this scheme and everything else we do. So yeah, happy to support the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Crackhill. Very little to add that hasn't already been sent. I think obviously to thank officers for the work that's gone in developing this and many other schemes. I think one of the things I took away from the cost of living, I can't remember who it was that was saying it, was the short-term nature of it and the amount of money that's actually come at short term, and how actually if we'd have been told 18 months ago you were getting £5 million over the course of that, we would have been able to do something significantly more structural in terms of how we support people with that, for the very fact that we've never known it's coming, and then it comes and it has to get out quickly. While it does offer a significant and really important level of support, it hasn't actually allowed us to think a little bit more strategically, which is a shame in terms of that one. I think mentioning the cost of living, some as Councillor Crackhill did, I think it was really telling. We've got the paper coming to the executive, what a hard time people are facing coming in the next 2 to 3 months and going forward into the next year. It really is one of the most significant financial challenges I think I've seen in my lifetime, and probably most going back since the war in terms of that one. I think we have an announcement coming on the 17th of November, and obviously we will urge government to take action as much as possible to support both local authorities and individuals who are facing this significant challenge going forward. I think all that's left for me to say in terms of that one is that point that Councillor Crackhill made about the disabled children payment. How we actually manage to do that will be hugely challenging. Obviously it's for our comms team to get out and do that, from our local area coordinators, etc., and any support we can give as members. I think probably some contact to all ward councillors as well, to make sure we really are pushing that message out as much as we possibly can, to make sure that information is getting to those who will need it the most. Okay, so with that one, I'm happy to agree the recommendations at paragraph 2 on page 7. Thank you. Councillor Cracker, you're welcome to stay for discussion of routine procurement, but equally welcome to take your leave. Debbie's taking absolutely no offence here. Okay, so that brings us to agenda item 5, which is the regular update on routine procurements and approval of ICT procurement over £250,000. And I'll hand over to Debbie.
Yeah, so this is your regular report that just outlines those procurement exercises that have been agreed as routine by myself and the monitoring officer, and they're brought here for you to note. Just as a reminder, paragraph 4 sets out the section of the contract procedure rules, which just says that even though it's deemed a routine procurement, it still goes through the usual procurement processes. There are no kind of shortcuts or anything like that. It's just that it's day-to-day business of the council. And you'll see that there were just 3 procurements that were deemed routine in the last 6 months. They're set out at Annex A. One of them was the financial management system. One of them was our electricity contract, and the final one was the revenues and benefits system. And David's prepared a brief overview, Annex B, of the business case, if you like, for why that was deemed as routine, and just a bit more information.
Thank you, Debbie. As I say, it's one of those routine reports. If we don't publish it, everyone asks lots of questions. If we do publish it, nobody asks a single question. So the only thing I was intrigued about with that was that you mentioned that just on page 67. Is that a fixed price contract, or is that just?
Yes, it should be fixed, but there is a provision in the contract for it to be variable. So, but it's through the YPO framework, so they manage that process for us.
Okay, with that, I'm happy to agree the recommendations at paragraph 3 on page 61. And as I have no urgent business that I'm aware of, I'm happy at that point to declare the meeting closed. Thank you all, Peter.